The battle for dominance. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Pat Healy. It was September 21, 2013, when the canvas of the UFC 165 event would witness an encounter that would set the stage for the rise of one of the most dominant forces the sport of mixed martial arts had ever seen. On one side of the cage stood a young lion, Khabib, the Eagle Nurmagomedov, whose undefeated record had become a symbol of invincibility. On the other side was the seasoned and gritty fighter, Pat "Bam Bam" Healy, looking to make his mark and prove he was more than just a stepping stone in the world of MMA. It was a clash of raw hunger and experience, of an unyielding desire for greatness versus a relentless need for recognition. Khabib's journey, the undefeated Eagle. Khabib Nurmagomedov's journey into the UFC was nothing short of a rise to fame. Born and raised in the rugged mountains of Dagestan, Russia, Khabib had been groomed for combat from a young age. Trained in judo and sambo, his father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, a respected coach and former wrestler, was instrumental in shaping Khabib into a fighter who would soon dominate the mixed martial arts world. From the very beginning, Khabib was different. His wrestling, with its suffocating pressure and relentless style, seemed to defy the traditional rules of striking and grappling. While others would seek to knock their opponents out or engage in flashy exchanges, Khabib's focus was singular: control. He would break his opponents down, piece by piece, draining their will to fight with each takedown and ground and pound strike. By the time he entered the UFC, Khabib's resume was already filled with impressive victories, and he had garnered a reputation as an unstoppable force. At UFC 165, he was on the cusp of facing another challenge, a test in the form of Pat Healy, whose own journey had been no less eventful. Pat Healy's resilience, a fighter's resolve. Pat Healy was a warrior forged in the crucible of experience. A submission specialist, Healy had a long history in the sport, having fought for several promotions before landing in the UFC. His tenacity and toughness were his defining features, and his grappling game had earned him victories over some of the toughest fighters in the world. However, Healy was no stranger to setbacks. Despite his accomplishments, Healy had yet to secure a marquee win in the UFC. His decision to face Khabib at UFC 165 was a bold one, for he knew the Russian's style was a nightmare for most fighters: relentless, suffocating, and nearly impossible to escape once he had control. Healy's goal going into the fight was clear: to test Khabib's limits, to see if the undefeated record was as much about the opponent's skill as it was about the sheer dominance that Khabib displayed. This would be a fight not just of styles, but of wills. Could Healy break the grip of a fighter who seemed impossible to outlast? Could he withstand the pressure, the suffocating pace that Khabib was known for? The Clash, UFC 165 Round 1. As the fighters entered the cage at UFC 165, the crowd's energy was electric. You could feel the tension, like the moment before a storm breaks. Khabib, as always, was calm, his gaze fixed, his mind focused. Across from him stood Healy, his expression a mixture of confidence and determination. This was the moment for both men, a chance to etch their names into the fabric of the UFC. The bell rang. Khabib came forward immediately, his footwork precise, his intentions clear. His striking was clean, just enough to set up his takedowns. But it was his wrestling that Healy knew would be the real test. As Khabib closed the distance, Healy circled away, trying to find an opening for his own strikes. But Khabib wasn't having any of it. Like a predator, locking onto its prey, he shot in with a takedown attempt that sent Healy crashing to the canvas. The crowd roared. Khabib wasn't just looking to win this round. He was looking to establish dominance, to show Healy the difference between being a contender and being a champion. On the ground, it was all Khabib. His top control was impeccable, his transitions seamless. Healy attempted to scramble, but it was as if Khabib had anticipated every move before Healy made it. Khabib's ground and pound was relentless, his strikes punctuating every movement with precision. The first round was a clear statement. Khabib was in control. Pat Healy's resilience, surviving the storm. As the second round began, Pat Healy's resolve was tested. He knew Khabib would bring the pressure again, but this time he had to find a way to keep the fight standing. Healy had worked his entire career on his grappling, his submission game, but against Khabib, that wasn't an option. This wasn't just about surviving the takedowns. It was about outlasting the suffocating pressure. Healy attempted to engage with Khabib at range, throwing looping punches and hoping to land a solid shot. But Khabib was too precise, too quick, and before Healy could settle into a rhythm, Khabib shot in again, this time with even greater control. Healy tried to work his way back to his feet, but it was no use. Khabib's clinch was smothering, and he dragged Healy down to the mat once more. With the fight back on the ground, Healy had to defend against a constant barrage of strikes. Each time he attempted to escape, Khabib's heavy hands and unyielding top control kept him rooted to the canvas. It became a battle of attrition, a test of patience and will. Could Healy survive the storm, or would Khabib wear him down completely? Round 3, the final push. By the third round, Khabib's dominance was undeniable. But this time, Healy wasn't giving up easily. The exhaustion from being trapped in Khabib's control was evident, but Healy continued to fight, continuing to scramble, to look for any opportunity to land a submission or get back to his feet. His heart, his warrior spirit, kept him going, even as Khabib pressed forward like a tidal wave that never relented. But Khabib's endurance was unshakable. With each passing moment, the weight of his pressure seemed to crush the hope of victory for Healy. As the clock ticked down, it became clear Khabib was simply too much. Every escape attempt was met with a takedown, and every counterstrike was absorbed by Khabib's relentless pace. Finally, the bell rang to end the third round. It had been an exhausting, grueling contest, one where Healy had shown heart, but Khabib had shown the world why he was destined for greatness. The verdict: Khabib's unanimous decision victory. As the fighters stood in the center of the cage, the decision was announced. Khabib Nurmagomedov had won by unanimous decision. His record remained unblemished. But while Khabib had taken the victory, Pat Healy earned the respect of the fans and fighters alike. Despite the loss, Healy had stood toe-to-toe with one of the best in the world and had done so with heart and determination. The fight was more than just a contest of skills. It was a story of resilience, of two men testing each other's limits, and of a champion proving why he was the best in the world. Khabib's victory at UFC 165 was another step on his journey to greatness, but it was also a reminder that in MMA, even in defeat, warriors like Pat Healy could carve out their legacy.